Hey, what's up guys? MTG Tournament Grinder here, and welcome to the 100th video for this channel. 100th video! It's been a lot of work, but I gotta say that 100 videos went by a lot faster than I thought it would. To celebrate the 100th video, I'm going to be doing a giveaway for a fat pack of the new set, Guilds of Ravnica, once it's released, that is. So anyone who is subscribed to my channel will be entered into the drawing. I'll be using a random name, random number generator, something like that, and make sure that it's random, and one person's name will get drawn out of the hat. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell your dog, get everyone subscribed, and someone's gonna get a fat pack of the new set. And all you have to do is hit that subscribe button. So I'll tell you more about that at the end of the video. But back to the match here. I am still on hardened scales as of late. I have a lot of learning to do with this deck. I'm not done playing it quite yet. Up against Merfolk, probably one of the more experienced Merfolk players at my LGS. I think he's been playing Merfolk for at least as long as I've been playing Affinity, in any shape or form. And looks like we're both off to a mediocre start. The turn 2 Arcbound, it's a bit of security, I would say. I can sack something in response. I don't know what removal Merfolk has main board. I know they have Vapor Snag. I'm not sure if I would sack the Arcbound Worker to the Arcbound Ravager if he tried to Vapor Snag it. Probably not, but I'm pleased that I didn't see a Aether Vial on turn 1. That can be really hard to play through. And it seems obvious in retrospect that by not playing a spell, it's telling me almost for sure that he has Merfolk Trickster. But I'm still not used to Merfolk Trickster being in Merfolk. Since it's become a part of the Merfolk main board, I've only really played against it a handful of times. And usually, like the first time in a match when I get Merfolk Trickstered, it is a surprise that I don't see coming. Having watched this match once already, and looking at the board state now, it's like, well, what else could it be? But at the time, I was not prepared. So it's entered the battlefield. Its triggers on the stack, naming Arcbound Ravager. Right now, they're both 1/1s. They would trade. I think I'm going to use the opportunity while it's on the stack to move some counters around, so he's less inclined to block. I don't want him to block, really. I'd rather just get the damage through. And this is an interesting little interaction. I always have to make sure my opponent's familiar with it. It's like, okay, I activate the ability on the Arcbound Ravager itself, and that says put a counter on it. Sacrifice an artifact, so I get one counter from that, and then sacrificing an artifact that has Modular on it. I also get the artifact from the Modular creature when it hits the graveyard. Usually in like traditional Affinity, that only happens when you sack an Arcbound to an Arcbound. But in this deck, of course, having an Arcbound Worker, more creatures with the Modular keyword, that comes up a lot more. And I find myself explaining it to my opponents a lot more frequently. But I'm pleased with getting that 3 damage through in that way. Getting that extra counter, a little bit of value. Yeah, I'm not going to block with my Hangerback Walker. Only getting 1 Thopter out of my Hangerback Walker is like little to no value. Generally, I like to do what I can to like let them stick around as long as possible, activate their abilities at my opponent's instep, or whenever's convenient and tricky, really. That Spreading Seas is a shame, though. I think I was counting it up because, yeah, so the Inkmoth itself is 1, and then there's already 3 counters on the Arcbound Ravager. 2, 3, 4, sack the Hangerback Walker, 5, sack the token, 6, 7, 8. No, it wasn't quite lethal. It was close, though. If I drew an Arcbound Worker, and he didn't Spreading Seas my Inkmoth Nexus, there's a chance I could have had lethal. Oh. Hardened Scales would certainly make the Infect lethal. I bet you, on the day of recording, I'm thinking, shucks. But Ballista for 1, but instead it's 2. Always feels so good. I don't have a whole lot of instants or sorceries that are gonna get countered by Curse Catcher, but it is a blocker, and if you get some lords on the battlefield, it'll quickly become a threat. I have a feeling I will wait to react until I am presented with like a confrontation. There's a better way to say that, but wait until there's like a lord on the stack and my hand is forced, and I will go ahead and shoot the Curse Catcher. Swing 3. So I've missed a couple opportunities. Activate its ability, get 2 guys, but yeah. In previous games, after editing, I've noticed that I've missed a couple of opportunities to sack my whole board and go for lethal. It's kind of scary because he could have like Dismember or something, but I don't even think Dismember would do it because the Arcbound itself is the creatures that is attacking. It's already attacking for 3. I get 2 more counters by sacking the Hangerback Walker. Yep, so 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 from sacking those 3 Thopters. I do them one at a time, but I get 2 for each one. So 11 counters. I have lots of Darkstone Citadels to sack and a Hangerback Walker. Excuse me, a Walking Ballista on 2. So let's see. So that looks like 13, 14, 15. Sacked my up to 15 damage. And I think the best way to do it is just to probably shoot him. Yeah. Shoot him with the Walking Ballista for 1. That way, I don't know, in case something happens, I still have a Walking Ballista. Although, if something happens, quote unquote, I don't think I'm coming back from that one. But sure enough, yeah, you can get to 20 damage, or 16 it happened to be this time, really quickly with Hardened Scales on the battlefield. But I don't always get so lucky, so we'll see what happens in Game 2. As far as the sideboarding goes, at the end of the match, I could see that my opponent had brought in 2 copies of Echoing Truth, which I think is a great addition. Hangerback Walkers can make Thopters, and Animation Module can make Servos. Either one of which, the Thopters or the Servos, would be a great target for this Echoing Truth. It can depend on my draw, but a lot of times, a huge part of my game is either the Thopters or the Servo, so definitely worth bringing in if you got it. He also brought in 2 copies of Ceremonious Rejection. As many copies of this card as you have, I think you want to bring in. There are a few relevant cards that are not colorless, Hardened Scales and Ancient Stirrings to be precise, but it counters any other card in the deck with utmost efficiency. And last but certainly not least, he brought in 1 copy of Gutshot, and I like this a lot. I think that's pretty spicy. A lot of my wins are if my opponent taps out, and I think, oh, okay, I'm safe to put all my eggs in one basket and win with Infect all in one go, or sack my whole board to put 20 counters, because of Hardened Scales usually, on a single Thopter or something like that. But a Gutshot can really catch me unawares. I think that's pretty spicy and pretty cool. As far as his outs, he took out 2 copies of Kira, the Great Glass Spinner. I think this is a pretty good out because I don't really have that much targeted removal, not even in my sideboard, really. So Kira's Bubble isn't going to do much here, so that's a good out. He also took out 2 copies of Curse Catcher. That's a good out for the same reason that Kira the Great Glass Spinner is. I don't have a lot of instants or sorceries for him to be countering. Granted, if he countered an Ancient Stirrings, that would feel pretty bad, but it's not the end of the world. And also 1 copy of Spell Pierce. All these outs are good for the same reason, and I think they all make sense. As for my own sideboarding plans, I brought in 2 copies of Dismember. I think in this matchup, I would like to hit perhaps a Master of Waves after he's made 5, 6, 7, however many elemental tokens. Also, any of his lords are good targets. There's always a good time to hit one of those. And besides the Dismembers, I only brought in 2 copies of Nature's Claim. So, I figure it might be nice to hit an Aether Vial really early. It can be tempting to keep a 1-land Aether Vial hand as a Merfolk player, and if you can blow up their Aether Vial when they kept a hand like that, that's pretty good. It's also good to hit Spreading Seas, because a lot of their wins come from unblockable island walk after they Spreading Seas like an Inkmoth Nexus or something. And if it is an Inkmoth Nexus, besides just taking away island walk, I can give myself back the opportunity to go for the Infect win. So there's a lot you can do with this card in this matchup. As far as my outs, and I think I've said this before in other videos, I'm really not sure the best way to sideboard with this deck, but I take out 2 copies of Throne of Geth, because I figure I'm not going to rely on flyers as much in this matchup, so having a sack outlet to kill my own Hangerback Walkers to make flyers may not be as critical as it otherwise could be, so both copies of Throne of Geth come out. Also, by the same philosophy, I took out the only copy of Evolutionary Leap, thinking that there's not much targeted removal and there's not a huge need for flyers, which is what Evolutionary Leap seems to be there for, so it came out as well. And lastly, a single copy of Horizon Canopy comes out. If you couldn't afford Horizon Canopy for budget reasons, replacing them with basics would really be no big deal. And if you're having to make hard choices about which cards come out, removing 1 copy of Horizon Canopy doesn't seem like that bad of a choice. Let me know in the comments below if you think it's right to take out this Horizon Canopy, but that about wraps it up for my sideboarding plans. So let's jump back into Game 2 and see how it goes. Well, welcome back to Game 2. I ended up taking Game 1 by sacking literally everything. It was a big risk, but it ended up paying off. So we'll see how things go in Game 2. Once again, no turn 1 Aether Vial. I'm relieved. Hardened Scales right out of the gate. Cannot complain. So I'll keep a lot of like sketchy hands as if there's a forest and a Hardened Scales. Let's say sometimes if there's like a forest and an Ancient Stirrings, even. I know that Stirrings can get me another land if the rest of my hand is absolute gas. So turn 1 Hardened Scales can mean a lot of things. But it certainly feels good to get started on my Hangerback Walker for 1, but instead it's 2 game plan this early. Welding Jar feels like a little bit of security, but oh, okay, Spreading Seas. Yep. Eventually, that'll probably mean that he will swing in for lots of damage that I cannot block. Although I did bring in my Nature's Claim. I think that's one of my 2 targets that I had planned for it. Either an Aether Vial or a Spreading Seas. Actually, I can see the Nature's Claim in my hand. Interesting. So I already tapped my green source. There was a lot wrong there. Because now I remember this moment from editing and from the day I recorded. I think what I needed to do is tap my Blinkmoth Nexus or my island in the Darksteel Citadel to cast the Hangerback Walker, leaving up my green source, and then just pass the turn. That way, if I want to, I can use my green source to cast the Nature's Claim. Or, see, here we go, exactly. I wouldn't have tapped I shouldn't have tapped my Hangerback Walker, because now it's just a totally juicy target for that Harbinger of Tides. Yeah. And Welding Jar is no use to having something bounced. So I just straight up lose out on that value. The ideal play would have been to leave up the forest and leave up the Hangerback Walker just past the turn. That way I could cast the Nature's Claim if I want to, and then as instep, put 2 counters on my guy, untap, still have my Hangerback Walker with 4 counters. It would be a lot better. Oh, okay. Both of those guys having 2 counters instead of 1 just feels fantastic. And now I have an Arcbound Ravager on the battlefield. So if he tries to do something to my other Hangerback Walker, I can sacrifice it in response. Having an Arcbound Ravager is literally always a good thing. What am I worried about on my opponent's side? Well, the Vial on 1 doesn't do much, but now it's on 2. So the Vial is online. He's got a Mutavault. And enough mana to cast one Lord, because the Lords cost blue, I believe. Alright, well there we go. So he could easily start filling up the board. Oh, Master of Waves. Yeah, 5, including that Spreading Seas. It's easy to forget Spreading Seas when it's all the way on your opponent's side of the board, but his devotion to blue is 5. Well, there goes my chances of swinging on the ground. I was doing an okay job at like having more creatures than him, but at this point I am relegated to swinging in the air. Looks like I'm not gonna get through that giant wall of elementals. Okay, another green source. I'm wondering if I will ever use my Nature's Claim. No, still not yet. Wowzers. I guess if one Hangerback Walker is good, then 3 is better, right? Again, I won't be able to tap one of them. Like, I tapped all my mana. Didn't leave a single mana up to activate a Hangerback Walker's ability to put a counter on it. Instead, it would be 2. It's a lot of value if I can manage to do that. But I guess just laying down 2 more Hangerback Walkers is like backup. Something happens to the one Hangerback Walker. No, I end up with 2 more. So with the hardened scales on the battlefield, every artifact is 2 counters. Well, sacking the Arcbound Worker to the Arcbound Ravager is even more. So I think at this point I could sack my way to lethal pretty easily. I just have no flying attackers. So before I untap next time, I need to sack at least one of my Hangerback Walkers so I have at least a couple flyers. Because if I can swing in the air, it's going to be relatively unimpeded. Unless he has a sideboard card in his hand, and I can't quite see what's going on. Of course, on the day of recording, I had no idea. So at his instep, activate Arcbound Ravager's ability, so I get 2 counters from that. The minute he gets to graveyard, I can put his counters on any artifact creature, not just the Arcbound. So I'm choosing the Hangerback Walker. And with the counters on the stack, like with the Arcbound Worker's modular ability on the stack, he's naming that Hangerback Walker. So that's only until end of turn. I think it takes me a second to figure it out, but because I have more Hangerback Walkers, this one being Merfolk Trickstered is not actually a big deal. Which I should just tell him, okay, that's fine. It just has the counters, I can't do anything with it. Instead, I'm going to sack this other Hangerback Walker. And then, this is all at its end step, so once I untap and it is my turn, I can sack the 5/5. Yeah, with everything still the same. It just changes exactly which Hangerback Walker I sack now. Alright, well I got my flyers. My opponent is not quite tapped out, and he has cards in hand. I've been Merfolk Trickster a few times this match. I gotta watch out for that. So how would Merfolk Trickster actually impede me here? I'm sacking everything to the Arcbound Ravager, building counters, building up to 20 until it's hard to do the math. I think it's like I sack my way all the way up to like 19 or whatever the number is before it gets to 20 if it's moving in intervals of 3. Sack right up until it's lethal, and then Merfolk Trickster the Arcbound Ravager. That would force me to put a non-lethal amount of counters on one of the Thopters. Or, but no counters on the Thopters. I think that's, if he's got a Merfolk Trickster, that's the way to use it. So here we go, starting to sack stuff. I think I may have missed out on some value here. The right move was to tap the Hangerback Walker to its own ability to put 3 more counters on it before I sack it. That way I get 3 more Thopters. Definitely is the right way to do it, but I don't think I need to exactly, like I have lethal without it. Although I'm definitely missing out on value by not pursuing it exactly that way. So every time I sack something, it goes up by 3. Right now it's at 11. So 1 more will be 14, 2 more will be 17, 3 more will be 20. I'm really bad at math, sorry. 12, 14, 15, 18, 21, something like that. Wait, there's already 2 swinging. I see. So it's 2, right there, plus 17, so 19. I need to sack 1 more thing. That'll be 22. The math in this deck is hard. Sometimes when you're planning out like how many attackers and how many blockers, because right now they're 1/1s, but next turn they're going to be 3/3s, and it can be challenging. But it looks like I've sacked my way up to lethal. Yeah, just have to put the counters on one of the Thopters, and this is the moment. You could gut shot me, but nope, no gut shot. Okay. Well, that ended up being a lot of fun. Thank you guys for watching, and as usual, if you enjoy content like this, you can let me know in the comments below, or by hitting that subscribe button. And hitting that subscribe button this week will enter you into the drawing for the Guilds of Ravnica Fat Pack. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.